Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen. Nerds International proudly presents.
We want to take you on a quest for knowledge. One that will take us from ancient medieval fantasy across the far reaches of space to the distant future. To many savage worlds.
All right, let's do this. Welcome to this review episode of the Wild Die Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to pinnacle entertainment savage worlds aimed at beginners and veterans alike. What's going on, gentlemen? It's a svelte Saturday afternoon. We're maxing and relaxing. We're chilling and thrilling, hanging out in the Wild Die.
Morning, Gary.
Anybody?
It's actually Sunday for me. I'm in the future, but thank you.
Oh, wow. Time travel. You got to like that. Can you tell me what the lottery numbers are so I can go make my millions?
Like hell. I'll be keeping that stuff for me. I'll share. How's that? I'll give you Division 2.
How did you get invited on the show? Won't even give your lottery numbers up?
Every time I hear about that, that reminds me of Back to the Future 2 with Diamond when they get back and he gets, he wins all these millions.
Did you remember when 9/11 happened? Obviously, everybody remembers when 9/11 happened. There was actually a lady that was on the news that was mad at England because she found out they were in the future and didn't tell us that this was about to happen. They had her on the news. They're like, why didn't they tell us? Why didn't they let us know? Damn those British people. Wow. Oh, my God.
Some people. But, today, we've got a review. And for the first time, we're going to have Paris review a book for us, a setting, Zombie Squad.
Yes, Zombie Squad. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, I think we need to sort of class these reviews up a little bit. You know, this is really sort of more of a gentleman's kind of book club thing. So I'll ask you please to put all on your smoking jackets and have your pipe ready and your glass of cognac as we explore this amazing title, Zombie Squad. Yeah. But is it amazing? We're about to find out. What do you want to know? You want the short version or the long version?
He said, get your cognac and your smoking jacket. He didn't say take your clothes off and light a cigarette.
That's what happens after a climax. I mean,
man, don't do both that of you guys. How to put $5 through the internet that they can tuck into your G-banger.
No, last episode we did a showdown. So it was Titan Effect versus Extreme Earth, and Titan Effect. So about 2 years ago, when we first started this show with Gary and Harrison, we interviewed a lot of creators, invited them on the show to talk about their project, their Kickstarter. Being a content creator myself, I felt I should be doing my part in helping them out. So we invited a bunch of people. Titan Effect, we had Zombie Squad, we had Retribution, the Blackwood, a couple more too, and then Frozen Skies. And then we stopped. Partly because the quality of these settings when we started seeing them were kind of underwhelming, and partly also because some of these guests were also underwhelming. So I thought that now it was a good time to get back to these settings, and now that they're done, that they've been delivered in some only in PDF after all this time, 2 years. Gary was telling me about one of them that I didn't back, but apparently is still waiting on certain things, but we'll get to that one at some point. Maybe Gary will be nice enough to review that one for us.
Really?
Which one's that?
Do you think I have anything good to say after waiting for 2 years?
Which one's this?
Retribution by Obatron. It's I believe the PDF is out, but when you back it, you back for like a hardcover copy, and it's been 2 years, man, and there is no excuse. It does, no matter what. 2 years of you're busy 23 hours a day kind of a thing. That still gives you 2 years at an hour a day that you can sit down and. It's insane.
You can't sleep. There's no sleeping for these people. Just produce.
Right. There's the if the PDF is done and out, the book really shouldn't be that far off. But I'm not a creator, right? So I don't know if there's much truth to that, but yeah.
Frustrating.
2 years. It's super frustrating. And you just kind of got to bite your tongue and hope for the best. But I don't know. Yeah. I was helping my kid put this box in his truck, and I sit down in this thing in my garage, and I look at it, and it's a white dresser, and I look to this beside me, and I'm leaning on this mattress. Well, we took it out of my daughter's room a year ago, and it's been sitting in the garage because my wife's going to put it on like one of these Facebook sales page things, and I'm like, yeah, that's just pure laziness right there. She's had 356 different opportunities to put this mattress in this freaking dresser.
Dude, this isn't family counseling. It's actually a book review, right?
No, sorry. My story's...
I figured it was good time now to get back to them, find out if they delivered on their promises, because I did listen to that interview, Kickstarter interview we did, and I'm going to have some questions for Paris, because I've only skimmed the book myself. I backed it, so I have my own copy, but couldn't bother to read it all. I just skimmed it. So yeah, let's get between the covers.
Oh yeah. It's my favorite part.
Oh yeah. Welcome one and all to Between the Covers, the hottest and most greased up segment on this podcast. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, things are gonna get a bit weird in here.
No, it's nothing sexy.
Sorry, what?
It's kind of where we talk about a Savage Worlds book from cover to cover.
Like some sort of book club.
Well, essentially, yes.
Well, in that case, I'm leaving. Oh, yeah. See you later.
So,
who's got the lube?
No shenanigans now. We've got our smoking jackets on, our pipe, our cognac. We are cultured savages as we go through this tome of information. So what is Zombie Squad? Asked myself that question many times as I was reading through it, but let's read what's on the back of the book and see if it lives up to its promise. So the Zombie Squad is a sci-fi RPG where you play an ex-military criminal Black Ops unit called Penal Squadrons. Pause for Gary to laugh.
I was muted, but I totally was laughing.
These penal squadrons are sent out on missions either too dangerous or too dirty, again, pause for Gary to laugh, for Earth's military forces. You are deniable and expendable and expect to accomplish your missions whatever it takes, with the skills and abilities to operate behind enemy lines or undercover on many planets available to visit in this game. Yeah. If you have ever wanted a game that mixes Star Wars, Aliens, Firefly and throws it in a pinch of the Dirty Dozen and Inglourious Bastards, then Zombie Squads is the game you have been waiting for and may possibly still be waiting. Oh, that bit wasn't on the back. Sorry. Here's me reading the back of the book. Full disclosure, I backed the Kickstarter. I didn't hear that Wild Die episode, and I'm going to have to go back and where you interviewed the authors, but I backed the Kickstarter. I read it. I was very excited. I thought, yeah, this is a perfect thing to play in Savage Worlds. Fast, gritty, lots of shooting and swearing and getting to reenact my fantasies of Aliens with all the Marines jumping around and fighting. I was like, yeah, this is really good for me. So I backed it, and now I finally got to do a review. And yeah, okay, let's go. So, does it live up to the hype? Now, that's pretty big, man. It's trying to put Star Wars, Aliens, and Firefly, three things that I absolutely love in sci-fi, into one book. So when you build expectations that high, you're going to expect that what's inside matches that expectation, because you don't want to get to the end and feel like you've just had sex with Gary, just unfulfilled. But
I do say, old chap, the show seems to be losing a touch of its class. If I might say so.
It does. Maybe we'll. Yes. Sorry. Back to the class. So, what do you get when you open up Zombie Squad? So, first of all, I probably should say that Zombie Squad,
Wait,
or at least,
can I guess?
What?
Can I guess?
Guess what?
What you get if you open it up?
Sure.
The herps?
No. I'm not sure what the herbs
I
are.
was right on that one.
So from my understanding, because I've done a little bit of research behind it, because some of the things confuse me about who and what owned what. So Feral Games appears to be the owner of the original Zombie Squad. And this, as thankfully Eric pointed out to me, this particular version of Zombie Squad was done by Applied Vectors. So I'm presumably because they had Savage Worlds expertise in delivering this book. So what's interesting to me is when I was doing this research, I looked over at the D20 version that's listed on DriveThru, and they have a very different blurb for the back of their book, and which I think is a lot closer to what the setting is. And I'll give you a quick read of that. So you were on death row for crimes against humanity. Then, on the day of your execution, you were given a choice. Face the firing squad or join the most badass military unit in the void. You chose the Zombie Squad. This is the game where every mission is a roll of the dice, literally, where you go to those places considered taboo by others. Ooh, game for Gary. Where you go to face the fear and then shoot it. This is a game with dogfights in space, bug hunts on alien planets, the discovery of lost ancient races mixed with gunfights and bad language. This is the sci-fi game that takes the dirty dozen and throws them screaming into a vast and alien galaxy. Inside the director's cut, you will find new and improved rules, great new artwork, rules for controlling machines with your mind, rules to create cyborg characters from the remains of other characters, rules for vehicle and space combat, a bunch of alien races, a bunch of alien threats, overview of the Gamma Celia system, and much more. So lock and load, you have a job to do and a galaxy of danger to discover. Now that actually gets me a lot more excited for the setting than what I read on the back of this book. Anyway, so we open up the book and I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. So I'm okay. And the layout doesn't seem too bad. We start with a comic, which is really good for short attention span people like me. Comic books are cool. And we get a brief history on what Zombie Squad is. So there's a comic book and then a short story. And without going through it all in detail, essentially what happened was at some point, England must have taken over the known human realm or a human galaxy, and they put all their criminals on a space station, decided that got full, and they went, you know what? It worked last time when we sent them all to Australia. Let's send these buggers into the void. So they put all their criminals on a ship and all these ships and launched them into the void, which apparently went wrong. And instead of killing us or sending us to the right place, it actually sent all our human criminals to a different system, the Celia system. And hence the game starts. Well, actually, no. They've obviously been there for a very long time before the game starts because we've established ourselves in the galaxy, or at least in this sector, I think. And this is my first problem that I have, or sorry, not my first problem. My first thing that concerned me about Zombie Squad as I went through it is the information in here, especially in terms of the background, is rather vague. I get the impression that whoever reads this book is expected to have at least known what Zombie Squad was or has read the previous versions of it. Because although there's a core here or core sort of stuff to play, at no point through this book did I really get a feel for the universe, the character. I got a feel for the player characters. I still don't know what they're supposed to do, but I know I don't get a feel for the aliens. I don't get a feel for the setting, but I'll get into that a bit more. So that was cool. I'm all excited.
I got a question for you. Outside of this PDF or this Kickstarter, what is Zombie Squad? Is it a comic book?
Outside of this, I believe it's a D20 version of the same game, or at least the same setting. So yeah, there's a comic book in here to give you a brief sort of description as to what's going on, or to give you a feel of what's going on. But from all I could find was the Zombie Squad Director's Cut, which is a D20 version that first came out in September of 2017 on drive-through, and there's only a print-on-demand copy, no PDF. So I was a bit bummed because I really would have loved to have looked through that to sort of compare the two against each other. So a basis for what Zombie Squad is, you play expendable assets to achieve missions for, I assume, is the human government in the Celia system. So you guys are ex-cons. You don't get a choice about this to play this game. The way that they've set it up is you had a life to start with, so you worked somewhere, then you committed a crime, then you went to prison for to be executed, so you're on death row, and you've been given the option of, well, I don't even think you've been given the option. You've basically been told to join Zombie Squad, or not only will they kill you, but they'll kill your family too. That's
that's convincing.
Wow, that's pretty rude.
Yeah, so as motivation goes, it's like it's a bit like Al Pacino sort of getting out there. I kill you, I kill your family, I kill your dog, kill everybody. So maybe do you have any hand in this at all, Eric, in that particular part?
No.
all of a sudden, this setting is you're playing John Wick. Killed my dog. That's it. The entire universe is going to die now.
So just answering the first question, just some of the questions that have come through from the savages out there. So Matthew Jones asks, he states, every time I hear the name, it makes me think of something completely different. Do you think this is a problem, or do you think most people wouldn't think this? So I'm assuming he thinks that you play zombies in this game, which I can understand, the Zombie Squad, if you haven't read the back of it. No, the thing is that you're essentially already dead. You're animated dead people going dead. Hits microphone. Dead is in the sense that, as far as the government is concerned, you have for your crimes, you are to be executed, and now they just get to use you for whatever they want.
You don't
legally
exist.
You are already dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Eric?
Yeah, you don't exist.
You don't exist. That's right. So that's why you are zombies, because you are the walking dead going out, and you're a squad because you're with a bunch of other people, which is really cool for role-playing games, because if it was zombie, it wouldn't be very good, would it? But anyway, we move on. Now, we get to character creation. That's thrown at you straight away. After a very, very brief little story, which doesn't tell you a great deal. It hints at a couple of alien races. It hints that these humans, or the humans that you play, are in the Gamma Celia system. It hints at a couple of other alien races. One that we first met, and thankfully we met them first, because in our infinite wisdom we opened fire on them, and they laughed at us a lot because our weapons were just useless. But they were very benevolent, and they said, you can survive, you can live, we like you, you make us laugh. Here, come live in the Celia system. Happy days. Then we met other aliens, which I'll get to a bit later on. And then the book throws you straight into character creation. And this is where I started getting a tiny bit confused, because I got really excited, because the first thing you look at when you're doing character creation is you look at your place of birth. That's fantastic. So I'm like, oh, good. They're going to give me some insight into what the Celia system is like, or what it's like to be human in this particular sector of space. And you get to pick your place of birth as either the hub, the city, the colony, the port, the way station, or the flotilla. Now, they are fantastic words, but they're not backed up by anything. They're not backed up with what is the hub? What is it like? What happens there? Which city are we talking about? What colony? Is it in this system? Is it another system? Port, so pretty vague. It gives you that you worked there. Doesn't really tell you what you did there. Just you were born there. Doesn't tell you how you got there or how it started, but you were born there, and it gives you some bonuses to your character creation. Then we get into attributes, which you start with an agility of D6, and you may select one other attribute at D6. So we're already without stating it, we're not using the standard humans that you find in your Suede. Or, sorry, this was also written for Deluxe. That needs to be noted. So it's not for Deluxe. Tells you that you get basic training where you gain D4 in shooting and fighting. And then it goes on to say each origin that you pick will give you some more skills. I'm like, origins? Oh, very cool. So then we get into careers. So these are the careers that you had before you were arrested. And without going through the whole list, there's civilian careers, a couple of criminal careers, some military careers. And what happens is when you pick one of these that you think suits your character, you are given a certain amount of skills and an edge, and you get to choose from that. So they've already deviated from the way that you create a character in Deluxe or Suede. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we shall move on. So as you go through and you pick all those, then you go, ha, you were arrested. Doesn't tell you what you're arrested for. That's something I'm assuming you come up by yourself. So if I may ask you, Gary, if your character was to be arrested for a crime that he would be executed for, what would that crime be?
Man, I'm such a goody two shoes. I don't even know what a crime. Extortion. That's what it would be.
What about you, Eric? What would you do? I know you're not a goody two shoes. Treason.
Yeah, you did actually leave Canada and go down to America, you treasonous bugger, yeah.
I did.
At some point, we have to have a discussion about that, Eric, but we'll move on. So then it has a very brief that you committed a crime at some point and you were given the choice of death or the zombie squad, which is kind of, if you are saying the choice is we put a bullet through your brain and your family's brain or join zombie squad. I'm not sure really choice is the right word for this, but okay, we move on.
Well, if you look at Traveler, you can actually die during character creation. So maybe they're giving you the opportunity here to say, this game looks like it's pretty bad. I think I'm just going to die instead.
I suppose if you rocked up to the game table and the GM says, right, we're playing Zombie Squad. Oh, what's that? Oh, well, you get to play this dude. Oh, no, I'm not into that. So, no. Yes, Traveller does have character death in character creation, but that's like a mini adventure all on its own, man, creating characters in Traveller. We won't go there. I love Traveller. Another episode. So you get to then select what you think what your squad role would be in Zombie Squad. So without really telling you anything about what Zombie Squad is, apart from the fact that it's a unit of expendable troops, you're then asked to pick who or what you'd like to play within this squad. So I'm assuming, and there's no guidance here, but I'm assuming that you would sit around with the other players and the GM and go, right, what do you think we're going to need for this squad? Well, we'll probably need a medic, and we'll probably need a scout, and we'll probably need a heavy weapons specialist and a marksman, and on and on. So your choices in here are the booster, the fixer, the Ronin, and the witch. On their own, not very self-explanatory. But as you deep dive into each one of these roles, they again give you skills and edges. Sorry, yeah, it's like a package. Do you get to pick any of these? No, you just gain all of what's in here. And about this point, I was noticing a trend, and it's called the +2 trend. There's a lot of stuff in this book that every time you're creating something, or you add something to your character, goes, and this gives you +2 to X, which started ringing a couple of alarm bells in my head. Like, have you played Savage Worlds? Do you know that +2 is a really big thing in this game system? But yeah, so +2 on fighting, man, that's huge. Like, I've gone through entire fantasy games where if you get a +1 sword to hit, that's like a huge magical item. But yeah, +2 to fighting and throwing and shooting, because you are just rock. That's if you're the booster. Then they start giving names to existing edges and then deviate a little bit or add little bits to them. So the dodge edge, for instance, they call it duck, dive, dodge, dip, and duck, dive, dodge, dip, and dodge. Don't know why it needs dodge there twice, but it does. Where it gives you the dodge edge and +2 to your parry. Woo! So here we go, another +2. So this gives you an example of what's going through. Then you've got the boost, the fixer. So the fixer is your hacker. The Ronin is your melee and exotic weapons expert. That's very exciting. We'll get to exotic weapons in just a second. And then you get your witch, and your witch is probably the most. Oh, I missed the gunslinger. My apologies.
I was just going to say.
So gunslinger, what does he do? He slings guns at people. He doesn't know how to fire them. He just throws them. No. So the witch is an interesting character, and at some point, and because I haven't been able to look at the original source material, they've either decided, you know, it'd be cool, an arcane background, or they had an idea or the way that these witches work in the original setting, and they've tried to sort of shoehorn it into the Savage Worlds version or Savage Worlds way of dealing with arcane abilities and cybernetics. So essentially the witch is someone that has the ability to manipulate reality or quantum physics, but the only way they can do that is by jamming a chip in their head. So I'm not sure how they knew how they could do that before they got a chip in their head. Anyway, and then they get this equipment that helps them manipulate quantum energy and physics. And most of it, or at least the majority of it that I read, is all external. So they don't actually put it in their bodies, but it comes with a strain, such as cybernetics does. So I was sort of juggling this around in my head, and I'm going, okay, this is equipment that they can, I'm assuming, can take on or off. I wasn't quite sure. The artwork doesn't stipulate that they can or can't. I know cybernetics is a thing in this setting. But yeah, so you would assume that while using it, or at least wearing it, or you can never take it off, this stuff applies to the strain. And for those of you that use the science fiction companion, you have a certain amount of strain, and that represents just how much technology you can take on your physical body before it begins to interfere with your spirit or your humanity. So the more cybernetics you put in yourself, the less human you become. And in a rules system, it's really, this is to stop you from taking every component and his dog's components and putting it on your body. It's like you can only deal with this amount before your brain explodes.
That makes sense. But so you're saying that you need the science fiction companion to play this game? You
definitely need the science fiction companion to play this game, and I'll get to that in
does it say, because I'm reading the back of it, doesn't mention anything about that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mention it at all, but it just assumes, it just says you get a number of strain equal to your spirit die, which is in the rules for the sci-fi companion. But yeah, they never mention it beyond that. That's it.
So if I were to find this book on the shelf,
yep.
Unless I read it before I buy it, there's no way I know I need the science fiction companion for this, right?
That is correct. In fact, if you buy this book, because it doesn't actually say that you need the Savage Worlds book either. So if you buy this book thinking that you're getting a all-in-one role-playing game, you're going to be sorely disappointed because you won't know how to play it, and you won't know a lot of the references in here, such as strain and that kind of stuff. So that would have been nice if they've, somewhere it puts, you require at least a copy of Deluxe, and it is advisable that you have the science fiction companion. I mean, you could play it without it. You just have to sort of guess what strain is and how to figure it out. So it does say that you need a point of strain. You get a number of strain equal to your spirit die, but other than that, it doesn't say a lot. So, and then once you've added up all your +2s and you put in your edges, you finish up by making your character as you would by the Savage Worlds Deluxe rules, essentially.
Wow,
so then you start making your character. Yeah. So you've got all these bonuses and you haven't even started making your character yet, really. So at that point, you get into your traits, your hindrances and your edges, you get your gear. You fill in any other background details you care to add.
So with Deluxe, it specifically says that the bonuses don't stack. Like for professional edges anyway, they don't stack.
They don't.
So is there any mention when you do all these steps with origins and picking your class and that? No, you don't know if they're supposed to stack or not. So you could end up with like a +4 to a skill, right?
Unless it's in here and I missed it, I scoured through it looking for that because, as we've discussed many times, whenever I look at a game product, I think if I put this on the table at work with my kids to play, right, and these kids are pretty switched on when it comes to metagaming, right, they're going to go, the book doesn't say I can't have plus 16 in whatever, and I could see myself the whole session degrading into me going, look, no, you can only have a maximum of plus 2. No, Zombie Squad specifically says I get plus 2 for this and plus 2 for that, and I'm like, So be aware of that, GMs. Don't let your players see this book. Wait, that doesn't make a good review, does it? So yes, you can, but just be upfront with them and just say, we're going to have to go through each of these bonuses together and see what actually applies. Then it gets into the skills of Zombie Hunter. So this is where I'm starting to get excited, right? I'm like, okay, where is the thing that, apart from this convoluted character creation system, where now we're going to see what Zombie Squad brings to the table for my Savage Worlds game. So full disclosure, a lot of the times I pick pieces out of settings that I buy, right? The setting itself may not interest me, although this one from the onset, I was like, yeah, I'm into this. I can see this game happening. But a lot of the times I look at the way these settings provide new skills, new edges, new hindrances, and applies them because that not only something that I could use, but it might give me an idea on how to adjust something else. So I get very excited about these sort of things being on my bookshelf. So under skills, we get 2. And the first one is knowledge drone. I know what drones are about. Okay. Happy days. Then we get knowledge kin. I'm like, don't I know who my family is? Surely I know him. Oh, wait. Kin is apparently a robot. So we haven't got to this stage yet, but it just says, you know what kin is and how to repair him. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. If my mother gets sick, I'll just open her up, crack out the toolbox, and everything will be fine. This is great. Not a great deal of explanation beyond that point at this stage. Then we get to hindrances. I'm like, okay, hindrances. These are the core of our characters. This is what's going to make us really special. So we have the following new hindrances, and there are 2. The first one is Dinosaur Squad. So this could be a major or a minor hindrance, which essentially means at some point you got cryogenically frozen as an emergency personnel. They didn't know what to do with you. They had no missions to suicide on, so they threw you in a deep freezer and then put you somewhere and waited until they defrosted.
Yeah, they spent all that money on you, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They look through their prison records and they go, oh, that's a particular bastard right there. I can't wait to launch him at something, but I've got nothing to launch him at yet. Put him in the deep freeze. We'll have him when we couldn't be asked going to the shops to buy something fresh. So they put him in. So you could be in there at 50 plus years for a minor or 100 years for a major, which gives you the low-tech minor or low-tech major hindrance. Now, this I had a bit of an issue with because I'm assuming, look, the technology that's presented in this game, aside from maybe what the witch gets to deal with, there's not a great deal of difference between the ship A that they all came on, and the weapons are very similar to the ones that we use today. So I'm just wondering where the hindrance is. For me, when I look at that low-tech hindrance, that's like someone that has come off a primitive world that has to till the fields every day, suddenly ends up on the starship of the Enterprise, and there's touchpads and that kind of thing. That to me is the low-tech major hindrance, not I got frozen, oh look, there's an extra new sight for this gun. But that would be up to each GM how they would apply that. I'm maybe being a little cynical. I like the concept of it, and I'd like to use that in other. That actually alone had me think, oh, what would be a cool setting to run that in? And I remember that many moons ago there was a role-playing game called Aftermath. It was a survival role-playing game, and at the core start of that adventure, it was an Australian-written RPG, was that you were cryogenically frozen in Sydney University, and you wake up many moons later and the world's gone to hell. That's a great way to start a game. I'm just not sure if it applies here. But then the second one is Sir, Yes Sir. And this one is for you railroady GMs like Gary. I love this one. I don't love this one, actually, but I think Gary would. So essentially, whenever someone of military leadership gives you an order, you have to make a spirit test to resist it. why you'd resist it, I'm not sure. So I'm assuming if it's an order to run headlong into battle, apparently you need to roll a spirit test to go, you know what, I'm not going to run at that laser cannon. That's really not what I'm about today. So I'm not quite sure where they were going with this edge. They didn't give a lot of lead out, but essentially you just automatically respond to an order, and but you will succeed to ignore it if you get a raise on your spirit test. Maybe that's what all the +2s are for. Yes, go, Eric.
So I'm looking at Dinosaur Squad, and you were talking about low-tech hindrance, low-tech minor or major. So where is that hindrance? Because in here there are only 2 hindrances, and you named them. So where do I find that low-tech hindrance?
Oh, you would find that in the sci-fi companion, which is not mentioned anywhere in this book.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and in the sci-fi companion, that is to differentiate between what you'd see typically in a Star Trek kind of show, where they come up, they've got their directive where they can't interfere with planets that are not as developed as them, and that would be the tech level difference between the characters on that planet and the characters on the starship. But yeah, without mention of the science fiction companion, you'd probably want to join Zombie Squad just to find out what they're talking about.
I found when I first got into Savage Worlds that was one of my major issues. These hindrances would show up, and you'd be like, well, how do I find this? Why is it not written in here? And then it took some time for me to figure out that things get layered over top of it. So this actually gets layered over the sci-fi, which gets layered over the core. And you're like, okay, so now I got to go back and look at this and look at this and look at this. It's like, it's frustrating. They should just put in there, sci-fi.
Yeah, see the Savage Worlds science fiction companion.
Yeah. Well, as I'm writing my setting, every time I reference something, I've actually got an index or a little guide that sort of says, this is the science fiction companion, this is Superhouse companion, this is Suede. So I'll just put that little code in, and then the page number where you can find it, just to make everyone's life a bit easier. I think anyone that, as you're pointing out, anyone that puts in an edge, especially, or hindrance, or anything that's not directly related to Suede, or even if it is Suede because it's faster, put a page number in. Just tell us where it is, and we can find it that much faster. Great.
This the setting that you're writing, is it ACU? Where'd you go? Are you going to poop? In the middle of the interview, the guy just gets up and walks away. Leaves us hanging.
Listed in Zombie Squad. Sorry.
Oh, he had to go get a drink. He's getting parched.
That's it.
Are you starting setting ACU, the Australian Counselling University, where you play like a bunch of college kids that try and solve mysteries?
We can talk about this on the regular podcast if you want, but it's called Hero ES, and anyway, we'll talk about that on the regular cast. As we're focused on this, Gary, this amazing setting.
I'm 3 glasses into this cognac, so
it'll help. So then we get to edges. Edges, we've got a couple more edges, which is cool. Again, there's one that I just looked at and I went, there is no way in heaven I'm ever allowing a player to take this edge. It's called a Fickle Master. By expending a Benny, you can change one situation per session. For example, the corridor is a dead end. You use Fickle Master and spend a Benny to place a door there.
Well, that's actually in Suede now.
Yeah, but not quite. If someone at my table throws a Benny down and goes, I want a door to be there, I'm like, well, dude, I have mapped behind that door, so there can be a door there, but it's leading to nowhere. It's like, it depends on what the door was for. Like if they're looking for, there's an escape hatch, okay, then I can expect to spend a Benny and I can accept that. But
yeah, fair enough.
Change something for a session, like, I don't know about your players, but mine will be like, this really big dude walks around the corner and he's got this giant Gatling laser. Spend a Benny. No, he's actually carrying a pot plant. What?
he's got spoons. Who's railroading their players now, mister?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there's a certain amount of, like, if Benny's become an easy win button, and I realize that this edge only allows you to do it once per session, that's an easy win button. There's no way I'm giving that edge, surely. Are you going to allow that edge?
Oh,
Aaron,
hell no.
come on.
I don't even like I don't even like the Suede rule for story points, man. Come on, it's silly.
Really? I can see it. Well, anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But but Fickle Master allows the GM to have that door locked, or so it doesn't all go their way. But I could just see a lot of potential problems with this edge as the way it's written. So maybe it needs to be clarified a bit. Then we get to the requisition edge, and the requisition edge has 3 grades, which allows you to requisition gear outside of what your normal zombie squad load out would be. So I'm getting excited, right? I'm like, oh my Lord, by grade 3, you can have 1 million BC of gear, whatever a BC is. That's the currency. And I'm like, that means that there's going to be a kick-ass equipment section in this book. I can't wait to get to that bit. So we've got 3 grades of requisition, which allows you to get ever-increasing levels of more gear to run into combat with. Then you have your combat edges, pinpoint accurate. Here's another +2 to your shooting. And
Don't they already have one?
edges. Then we get into professional edges. So then we get into professional edges. We've got Eye in the Sky, which gives you a +2 to notice because someone's doing their job with some sensors, which is good. Hard pilot suit. It allows, this to me sounds like a skill, but it gives you +2 on combat and maneuver actions taken when wearing a suit of powered armor. So now if I have +2 because of my +2 to shoot because of my role in the squad, +2 to shoot because I have the combat edge, and I just happen to be in this hard suit, do I suddenly get +6 to my shots?
Tell me more about this hard suit. Okay.
But again, I'm having this argument at my table with my players. Going, no, I get +6. The book says so. So anyway, kin friend. Again, I'm still not sure what a kin is by this point as I'm reading. So I think it's I don't know. I think it's a bit much that I have to spend an edge to be friend with the people I'm related to. Not sure why, but and then apparently I get more knowledge on them and I have a better chance of repairing them, which is really cool.
And you get a +2 to that, right? +2.
You certainly do. +2 to all your knowledge, kin, and repair rolls. Woo! Medic. And we have medic. That's a good professional edge. You have advanced medical training, which provides a +2 to healing and knowledge medicine rolls.
Okay, we were talking about this before the show. So during the Kickstarter interview, Ian was talking about this edge, medic, like with exclamation marks, that it's kind of like in, what's the name of it? The movie with the bugs?
Starship Troopers?
Yeah, Starship Troopers, that it's kind of like that. So I was expecting some really cool edge where you get to actually, give first aid in the middle of battle. And if you know the Savage rules, you know that it takes 10 minutes to use your healing skill. So it's not really possible to heal someone in the middle of battle. But so I was expecting maybe an edge that lets you actually perform first aid, maybe with some kind of patch because it's sci-fi and it's in the future, and you could do healing in one round. But no, what does medic do again?
It pretty much gives you the edge that you get in Deluxe or Suede, which is healer, +2 to your healing rolls. That's
and
it.
Knowledge medicine. Yeah.
And not only that, while I am jumping ahead a little bit, there's really not a lot of reason to take a medic with you because, in fact, the chances are the medic can actually do more damage to you just by rolling double ones, whereas I can just take a whole bunch of sims, which when injected automatically heals the wound. No limit on how many I can take, how many I can carry. So I just run around stimmed up to my eyeballs and nothing will hurt me. It's fantastic. So I'm not sure why I'd take a medic in the first place.
Yeah, that's a bit of a duff. That's a bit of a duff.
Besides, you got +6 shooting, so you're not going to miss.
Yeah, you're all gonna be dead. I am +6 in medicine. Thanks, dude. I have this little stim. You just stay there. It's happy days, because you still might roll double one and make it worse for me. Get away. I'm going to use these drugs. Anyway.
I spent 7 years in university, 3 years in the combat field. You know what I mean? I got 10 years. Shut up. You just inject yourself with these stims.
That's right. But but a stim pack, Gary, will not help you with that hangnail. Just saying.
Oh. Oh.
Hello. What was that?
That was Gary's dog.
Oh,
Yeah, somehow the dummy got downstairs. I closed the door behind me when I came down here, and somehow he managed to get down here. I don't know.
Okay.
When I'm not looking, he grows an opposable thumb.
Then you get rank. The rank is an edge, and this is a really dangerous edge. Because every time I take this edge, I gain a rank, which is fantastic. I get private, first class, corporal, sergeant, master sergeant, lieutenant, on and on until I get to general. I'm the general of a zombie squad. Okay. But every time you take it, your attributes go up a die type, or you get a new edge. So that's outside of the standard Suede or Deluxe rules, where you can only take an advancement to your attribute one per group. So novice, veteran, expert, that sort of stuff.
Right. I can see that. But so you take an edge that gives you an edge.
No, the first time you take it, you get plus one die step to any attribute. If you take it a second time, you get a new edge. So yeah, you take an edge to get a new edge. And then you take sergeants after that, which gives you a new leadership edge. And then you go master sergeant, which gives you another attribute die type. So depending on how you're spending your attribute, yeah, you're right. Why would you buy any other edge? You would just buy rank because it's going to give me an attribute bonus or an edge I was going to buy anyway.
Well, it can circumvent some requirements, because what's the requirement for that edge?
Requirement? Zombie squad.
That's it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if there's an edge that you want that, you don't meet the requirements for, does it say that you don't need to meet the requirements when you pick an edge with the rank?
Nope.
How do you achieve the requirement zombie squad? How do you meet that requirement?
You make a character, Gary.
Yeah.
Wow. So if I was to take rank and I outranked Eric, could I make him shine my shoes and like make my bed and stuff?
You could get him to polish anything you wanted.
Oh man, my helmet is extremely dirty. I need you to polish my helmet, Eric.
Yeah. No. So by only taking rank in, let's say, your first 4 advances, which is novice, yeah, you would go up 2 attributes, gain an edge, and a leadership edge.
Okay. All right. Well, enough of this. What after the edges? Because we got one.
No, we've got one more. Arcane background.
Okay,
arcane backgrounds. Look somewhere else. So then we get into equipment. So the equipment, and this is where I'm like, yeah, I've taken the requisition grade 3. I'm like, you beauty. I'm going to town. I'm going to take bazookas and massive cannons and giant robots. I'm taking everything.
And laser swords, right? Because it's
laser swords would be so cool. Yeah,
I'm a massive fan of massive cannons. I'm just saying, okay. I like big cannons. So
I can take laser swords because it basically says you can take most of the equipment found. Most of the equipment found in the Zombie Squad universe is found in the Science Fiction Companion. However, here are a couple of exceptions. So your loader or your gear is actually what you find in Science Fiction Companion. So you can take your laser swords, etc. Has a brief discussion on alien currencies, which basically says human money's worth nowhere near as much as anyone else's. Suck it, move on. From looking at the equipment that's in here, except for our magical stim pack, everything else that's been described in here looks like it's been created from using the guides in the Science Fiction Companion. So essentially they've done a little bit of the work for you, but there is nothing, and I mean nothing, that's in here except for maybe the Zombie Squad uniform, which makes me giggle when we get to a bit further on, that is different from really anything in the Science Fiction Companion. So there's really nothing new here.
The Zombie Squad ship, though, right?
there is a fantastic. You're jumping ahead. I'm talking about personal equipment here. So the standard uniform of the zombie squad is a flak armor full body suit with built-in Kevlar chest protector, and it's got Death's head on the lapels, and it gives +4 armor versus bullets. Torso is +8 versus bullets. Negates 4 points of AP and on and on. The funny thing is, though, it goes on later to tell you that nobody ever wears zombie squad gear. Like, if you go on a mission, everyone just wears their own shit. They never wear any of that zombie squad stuff. In fact, the only time you wear zombie squad stuff is if you're essentially going on inspection or some sort of parade thingy. That's it. So you don't really you wear whatever you want. You customize your loadout, and you look nothing like a soldier.
Why would you be on parade if you're like dead?
Exactly. You're not supposed to exist. Why would they put you on a parade?
And
I noticed.
Excuse me, gentlemen. What happens on Halloween?
Okay.
Right. Jeez.
I noticed at the front of the book that Paris Conte backed the Kickstarter. So did Matthew Stark. So did Want Some Beats, which is me. So did Victor Diaz. Looks like Jib did, but I saw Harrison. It says Matthew Harrison. Now the page that we're on in this book here, there's the Harrison Hail Mary serum created, or there it says right there for Matthew Harrison. So they must have had something in the Kickstarter where you could create stuff. Mad scientist Dr. Matthias Harrison. Interesting.
What does it do?
I don't know. There's a thing. Does it matter?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It gives you berserk and frenzy.
Oh, yeah. Nice. It's a serum that you inject.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, look, it's a cool little picture. I like that. It appears. Oh, no, that's the grab belt above it. No, there's no picture. My apologies. There's a light stick. It's very cool. So the personal equipment in this is quite wanting. The witch's gear, which you would expect there to be a fair degree of stuff. Very limited. In fact, it doesn't. What I can't understand is it comes with how much it costs and how much strain it gives you, but it doesn't actually give you mechanics for what it does in game. So it gives you a brief on what the thing does, but some of it does. Like the Giga Hat gives you double the duration of power of the powers used. Double the range with the gauntlet.
These are kind of neat things, right? This Giga Gauntlet gives you double the range, double the effect, double the power. So if you had the gauntlets to pack in the hat, you essentially, by the looks of this thing, would end up looking like a Ghostbuster weirdo with a weird fruity hat. But
the issue that I have with these is that again, like everything that appears to be in this book, is that these just like take you over the top. So double this, double that, extra bonus for this. The boomstick allows you to lose blast and bolt powers. It doesn't say whether you actually have to have that in the first place or you just get them because you're holding onto the stick.
That's a broomstick for the witch. The witch gets a broomstick.
Which is cool. And then there's a whole page on the history of cybernetics, which essentially boils down to go by the science fiction companion if you want to put cybernetics on your character. Oh, no, wait, next page. Audio enhancement, quantum chip, and sensor pack. My apologies. There are 3 things here and what they cost. See, that's the other thing that I had issue with is if I'm buying stuff from the science fiction companion, that money or the way that they've labeled the currency in this game doesn't equal the currency in the science fiction companion. So now I'm going to have to do some conversions or try and figure out what it is. So, okay, cool. And then we get to weapons, and this must be the core of Zombie Squad, right? You're a kick-ass unit going in. You're going to face aliens and pirates and all these kinds of things, and you get a selection of 2 guns. An assault rifle.
What?
Yeah.
What the actual shit?
And a heavy revolver.
2 weapons.
That's it. Yeah. So moving on.
What year does this take place? 2021 something?
Hey?
What year does this take place? 21 something? 2147? Is that what I saw at the beginning of the book?
I don't know. I can't actually. Unless I missed it, I couldn't. It was 20 years later from when they. Oh, hold on. So it was 2147 when they came out of the void, and assuming the game starts 20 years later, and I can only assume that because the story that's told at the start is about a girl that grows up to be a zombie squad captain. So 20 years later than that, so you can assume it's 2187.
Yeah. And we've got jet bikes and flying spaceships and hover thises and that's, but we don't have like pulse rifles or...
Well, you can assume that you get
laser.
them out of the science fiction companion.
Damn,
but again, it doesn't say it. And in fact, none of the pictures in this book shows me, that I can recall, shows me someone firing a laser. So I get the impression that the inspiration or the way you're supposed to look at this is those colonial marines from Aliens. Like none of them had lasers. They had pulse rifles, which is essentially, so it's just bullets, projectile weapons. Okay, moving on. Cool.
If I had a laser gun, I would make hot dogs. Right?
How?
You're out in the field. You always got a pack of wieners with you. You just roll them out, shoot it with the laser beam so that it heats it up.
Wouldn't that just disintegrate the wieners?
Yeah, Gary.
No, it just put a hole in it, man. What's wrong with you guys? Just be warm in the inside.
What about a gun that shoots hot dogs?
No, that's even better.
Now you're talking. But then you'd have to face an enemy that's shooting a gun of buns. And you can meet up in no man's land and share lunch. All right, so there are a couple of vehicles in our vehicle section. There is a jet bike, a leisure bike, and a military bike. Not a great deal difference between the three. Pictures are even pretty similar.
Oh, hey, look at this. The military bike has a fixed light laser.
Oh, we have lasers. It does. And then our military troop
light missiles.
Laser, which is cool. Then we get to some spacecrafts. So again, they've made one of each type for in terms of the classes. So you got a fighter, passenger ship, a cargo hauler, battleship, carrier. I am assuming these are humans. That seems to be the implication. Nowhere in this book is any alien gear, any alien stuff that I might come across, or any alien tech that I might steal and use for myself. Then we get to a section called the kin. And I'm like, oh, hello, we're going to talk about what kin are. So the kin are robots. That's it. Okay, so they're robots, but they call them kin in this world. That's it. There's not much difference in terms of what you'd find in the sci-fi companion. I like the idea of the kin. I think if you're going to rename something completely, maybe give it a bit of a story as to why. I'm not sure if I just glossed over that bit. But then we've got a couple of examples of robots that you can use: combat drone, support drone, hunter-killer drone, swarm drone. And then there's the sample kin, because one of the edges you can take is that you have like essentially a kin companion, which is a bit like your beast companion if you're playing fantasy. This is your own personal little robot running around doing its thing. So there's a cannon kin, and a quarter kin. So, drones are aside from kin, which confused me because drones are mindless from what I understand, and you've got an edge there that gives you +2 to pilot them and +2 to repair them and that kind of thing. But they respond to your commands, whereas kins appear to be at least autonomous from what I can tell. Again, they don't go into great detail. And so there's 2 sample kin before we get to the setting rules. So that's it. That's all our equipment for Zombie Squad. So far we've mentioned Star Wars, yet I'm not seeing anything that really relates to Star Wars. Maybe a jet bike.
The kin?
Lasers. Yeah, but the kin, even the kin in this is all very military based. Like the robots in Star Wars, they're not military based really, except for episode 1. It's only when you get protocol droids and that kind of stuff. There's none of that in here. So I'm assuming you have to lift it out of science fiction companion. And I even though I have this kin edge, which gives me a link with the robots. In Star Wars, anyone could talk to a robot, and they talk to them like they're a normal person. And I cannot play a robot in here, which you could do in Star Wars role-playing games, right? If you pull up the science fiction companion, you could, but then you can't use the races that are in the science fiction companion. So again, I'm a little confused of what you can and can't use within this setting. I'm assuming it's up to the GM what they want, but this is a completely human-centric game from what I can tell. So then we get to our setting rules. So cool, we're getting into what makes this different to other Savage Worlds games. You can be a career zombie, which I don't know, you are a career zombie. You don't get a choice, do you? Like, either do this or we shoot you and your family. Not your kin. Apparently your kin are fine. They get to survive. So you're a career zombie. You get upgrades for every 4th year you've been there. But however, you can actually start the game even more powerful by being in there for a while. So you've been a zombie for a while, so you get more stuff. You do get a couple of injuries that you have to deal with, like you roll randomly on the table, but you gain more gear and a couple more. So you gain an advance for every year. Each year that you decide your character's been active, you get that. Dramatic heroism.
Yeah, career zombies is kind of like the Weird West, veteran of the West kind of a thing. The longer you've been there for a while, so you get extra things.
Yeah, but didn't we discuss this last time, like with that our versus just in the last podcast that just I don't know, it unbalances things again, doesn't it? It's anyway. Dramatic heroism. This is more of a suggestion than a setting rule. I'm not. You get free bennies for doing heroic and dramatic things. Isn't that just Savage Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You get henchmen. They're a step up from extra, but they're not quite wild cards, but they roll wild dice. That's all it says. So does that mean that everything you face in this game has a wild die? There are no mooks?
No, maybe in the bestiary it would tell you if that creature is a henchman or not.
Okay. Well, step up from an extra, but they are not quite a wild card. Basically, they're an extra with a wild die. That's all it says. Henchman. Okay.
Yeah, so they would have one wound. They just roll wild die with whatever it is, a wild die and a shooting die.
Yeah, but what he's asking is that who gets that? Is it everybody or,
Your henchman. What's wrong with you guys? It says henchman right there. When you
Yeah, but is it my henchman? Is it the bad guy's henchman? Whose henchman is it?
What are you, Mongoloids?
Please don't use that word. But how do I get a henchman in a zombie squad? I can only have my own troops. You're a small unit. It's not like you're a battalion where you may fill the gaps with NPCs, I guess, and maybe that's the henchmen they're referring to and you get to control them, but it doesn't say. That's it, man. 3 lines. I need clarity. I'm a bit straightforward.
I need clarity.
Maximum damage. So this is suitable for deluxe because it wasn't part of deluxe, but you can spend a Benny on damage rolls, which is now part of Suede. So happy days. More DACA, which lets me think that whoever made this is a 40K fan. Then that is, instead of tracking ammo, if you roll a 1 on either your regular die or your wild die when shooting, it means you run out of bullets and you have to reload. Realistic damage. Everyone who rolls a wound, roll on the injury table. So this is just gritty damage.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then 0 squads. And this confused me a little bit. So from what I can tell, this is their version of Universal Soldier, bringing the dead back to life so that they can fight, bring them out of the freezer. But you can't repair them. You can't fix them. And it doesn't say whether they are player characters or not. So does that mean that if my character dies in this game, I get a chance to have another go with this same character until this one becomes completely naff because I can't be healed? Or is it for my mooks? I'm not sure. So that needs a bit of clarity. Have you guys got any insight into that?
No. I was trying to make sense of it when I read it this morning too. During the Kickstarter interview, Ian was talking about that he was working on a setting rule that would allow kind of like flashbacks to see scenes that the player characters aren't a part of, like things that happens off screens with the bad guys, like a foreshadowing type of thing. I looked, maybe I missed it. Is there something like that in the setting rules?
No, I couldn't see it.
All right.
Unless I missed it too. No, unfortunately.
Okay. Maybe it was somewhere else in the book. I don't know, but.
Now, did you call these zero squads?
Rezo squads. Apologies. Yeah, Rezo squads. So they've been resurrected. Rezo squads or resurrection squads. Yep. Yeah. As I said, it doesn't. It's from what it looks like you got the idea from Universal Soldier and thought that'd be cool, but doesn't really state when they come into effect, how they come into effect. Do I have? Yeah, who becomes them? It doesn't really say that.
Right. What else in that book?
So the last bit in that setting is Giga Voodoo. So Giga Voodoo is the only arcane background available, and it's kind of cool. But me personally, I don't quite get it. I can't wrap my head around how these particular people are akin to manipulating Q energy and quantum physics, but they can't do it effectively without the chip, I'm assuming. So they get this Q chip put in their head, and that Q chip allows them to connect to the equipment that they put on themselves, which then allows them to manipulate the quantum energy better. So essentially, from what I'm gathering, is they wanted to have a reason why cool magic style effects would happen, such as a bolt or a blast. But because this is a sci-fi world, we couldn't just have mages running around. So they made Giga Voodoo dudes. Apart from the strain, there doesn't appear to be any other limitations or outside of the standard rules, as to why being a Giga Voodoo dude is. It also doesn't say that I can't put a chip in my head later down the track. So most arcane backgrounds, you start with it. It's very rare to get a character where you would gain an arcane background later down the track, unless you and the GM came up with something pretty solid. Yeah. So if somewhere along the line where I go, you know what, I have plus 12 in shooting, I think it's about time I became a Giga Voodoo dude. Let's stick a chip in my head. It may be possible to do that. I'm not sure.
See, this would have been a great spot for them to sort of take a step back and put in some cool sci-fi stuff in the sci-fi setting. Any advanced technology can easily be confused for magic. Like, we might not know how it works. This would have been a cool way to have some kind of bomb that blows off and levitates everything in the room, or, stops gravity for a few seconds, or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I also get the impression that humans are kind of behind the eight ball technology-wise compared to the rest of the galaxy. So wouldn't it be cool if, a bit like a Ripper's situation, where you start integrating alien tech into your body and try to figure out how it works and that kind of thing. So
yeah, that's pretty inspiring stuff.
Yeah, it is. And like, this book is essentially 80 pages long, and I look at the original director's cut, it's 174 pages. So I'm wondering what we're missing. I'll get to that when I do my conclusion, but yeah, I have a feeling that not everything was transposed across, and the person who I believe is the Vector dudes, Applied Vectors. I think I get the impression they went, yeah, that makes sense in my head, and they threw it out on the page, but didn't really consider the reader by going, does that make sense? Does that link? But we'll get there. Then we have a brief section on the planets in the system that we live in, the Celia system. There is not a great deal to talk about here. Very short, couple paragraphs on each planet. Whether there's a colony or a city there. There is no information in here about how the cities operate, what makes them special, what their connection is to other cities. So there's no internal human politics, put it that way. So I don't get a sense of the sociology, psychology, or government of the humans in this sector. It really is a game about you are criminals, you are going to get killed, or you go and do these missions.
So as a GM, you read this and there's no story plots that emerges from you reading this at all?
No. So even when I get, so I got through. So there's nothing in here that gives me a hook about the humans and what their feeling is towards everybody, and where they sit in the universe, or what they're trying to accomplish, or what this group is. I get a vague sense that survival is the biggest thing. But for a bunch of criminals, or essentially a whole bunch of people that have descendants of criminals, there's no sense here of internal power struggles. There's no sense of trying to expand. Nothing. They're just floating around in the system. That's it. Then you get to the alien races, and again, they're pretty brief, and all except one hate us. Or one's indifferent to us. One thinks we should be nice to us. Everyone else hates us. There's no explanation as to why, really. We hate one of them because we think they're enslaving another race, but this race is actually living in symbiosis, and that's the Ashura and the Dran. Then we have...
I just talk about this. It's like humans are always the worst. Nobody wants to come here and live on our planet. They want to come here and blow the crap out of us because we're scums. It always seems to be the way that it always is, right?
It is. Well, we were a whole bunch of criminals, Gary, that rocked up in their backyard. Like what? I'm sure we had really bad diplomatic skills, and we just rocked up and went, "Hey, how you going? Shit, your wife looks shit." I can't see diplomacy went really well in those early years. But
what is the point of this entire section of the Gamma Celia system? This could be summed up in a matter of one page, a couple of paragraphs that says, create a planet, give it a name, and away you go, kind of a thing, and build your city. Yeah. Because anything.
I would have much preferred if this section said look, how about make this system your own, right? Make a base planet where your guys are stationed on. Here are some tables to roll, or these are the other humans.
Here's a bunch of names of planets.
Yeah, that's essentially what we've got here. Is a bunch of names of planets. And we've essentially just got a bunch of names of aliens that, with a very brief, very generalized stereotype for each race. I see a lot of similarities between races from other settings. The Daxek remind me a lot of Klingons. The Quay remind me a bit of the Ferengi. The Talvan remind me of the Vorlons from Babylon 5, where they don't actually ever show themselves. They just show like avatars themselves. And they appear to be far more technologically advanced. The Tralvex are another military-based alien group. They mention that the Varaxi share a border with hub-controlled space. I can't tell you what hub-controlled space is. I think that may be the Celia system. I'm not sure. So apparently we've had a few fights with them. We've got a treaty of sorts. They remind me a little bit of the Vagra from Traveller without the long noses. And then there's the Virikal Irremotionless. Other than that, I can't tell you a great deal. They couldn't care about us. They'll trade with us. They don't care really much about us. That's about it. Their faces, that picture of that face is very unfortunate. Moving on. So that's the aliens. Then we get to the...
is that the recall guy that looks like Wolverine?
On page 60? That certainly is. No, I'm talking about the one on page 61. There is no way I can have a conversation with that alien without making a whole bunch of lewd comments.
No.
So then we get to the game mastering section. And he goes,
Oh
he's finally
my
going to
God.
tell me what Zombie
it.
Squad is about. I'm like, yes, tell me what Zombie Squad is about. And it tells me nothing that I haven't already read, except for it adds in the bit about, oh, you know how we gave him a choice between death row and becoming a Zombie Squad member? Well, we're pretty sure everyone at your table is going to say no. So we're just adding in that we'll also shoot their family in the head. Can we do that? Sweet. Cool. Then there's a D12 to roll on some random squad missions. And then there's basically, how do you tell zombie squads what to do? I would have thought holding them hostage with their lives and their family lives would be enough. But no, we can stick some exploding nanites in them, a la Suicide Squad. We can do military discipline, prison. So it's a very brief on how you would. I think they've already got this impression that your players are going to go, you know what? Fuck, bugger this, I'm out. So you're going to try and get them back into line. Then it tells you about squad uniforms, as I mentioned before. They only wear those on ceremonial events. Again, why do dead people have ceremonial events? Not sure. But other than that, they wear whatever the heck they want when they're on missions. And playing aliens, characters made from this book may only be human. Forthcoming products will allow you to make aliens as player characters. Then we have a couple of NPCs already made up for you. None of them have names, just a race and a role. So pirate, Ashura pirate captain, Dran pirate, Vrax sea warrior. Then we get to the adventures, and I'm like, yes, here we go. Now we're going to do something. And I flipped the page, and I remember seeing this the first time and thinking, now this is cool. Look at this shit. Page 66, the Wild Die. It's even got a Wild Willy on the side. Mm-hmm. Right? Our ship. That's the ship that's going to take them off into these grand adventures. And I'm like, thanks, man. This is beautiful. And then I looked at the adventures. They are very, very limited in terms of what they tell you. They're essentially small missions. And I understand this is a military-based game. So in reality, the missions would be just, you must procure A and bug out. You must destroy X and bug out. You must rescue C and bug out. That's every mission. There's no link, so there's no plot point campaign in here. There's no explanation as to how these adventures even relate to our human government or their interests or what they want. It's just, here's a mission, go and do it. So if I was playing this as a player, I'd be like, okay, I get that I'm a Zombie Squad member, but what's the motivation for the mission? Like, am I doing this for the greater good? Where's the redeeming factor for me? Am I doing this for the greater good of the humanity? That's what I'd need as a player. As a GM, I'm kind of lost as to how I would present these missions because they're soulless, for want of a better term. There's nothing in them that makes me want to, I wouldn't be able to G my players up. It's basically, here's a mission, go run it, we'll roll some dice. Did we die? Yes, no, turn page, next mission. I'm being very harsh here, but when the book itself is kind of limited in its setting explanation, I was expecting it to be in this bit. I was expecting the adventures to give me that flavor of the game and what it is that I was trying to do within Zombie Squad. Then we get to my favorite part of the book, and that's the flora and fauna. So this is our bestiary. The artwork in this is cool. The art in this whole book actually reminds me very much of the art that was used in first edition Dark Conspiracy. I don't know if you guys have seen that book, but the art at least gives me a very sort of dark, bleak feel to the universe. And that's the impression that I think I'd want out of a Zombie Squad universe. These creatures certainly look like they would mess you up. I
don't know if I just faded out a little bit there, but you skipped over this character section after the story.
I did, because I did. Sorry, these are the characters.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's a weird spot to put why is this not at the beginning of the book? Sample booster, sample fixer, put this in with the character making stuff at the beginning of the book. Why is it here for a reason? These are sample playable characters, are they not?
Mate, I've got to be honest.
Maybe as pre-gens because they're adventures.
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't say that these are the characters for these specific adventures. It does literally say they're just samples. But to be honest, with how brief these adventures are, and when I get to my conclusion, I'll sort of expand on this a bit. I don't want to go through all that creation process. I really don't. Right? If I'm going to play this, have these sample characters, let's have fun for a night, and move on. So yeah, there's a sample of each one. There's a booster, a fixer, a gunslinger, a ronin, and a witch. And again, there is nothing in this that gives me any indication of what their mechanically their role is understandable, you know, like what dice to roll, what skills they carry. But in terms of their role within the squad and how that then sort of is elaborated within the context of the setting, it just, there's nothing there. It doesn't give you any sense for it. So yeah, I brushed over it because you can easily miss it. It's not exactly sort of leaping out on the page either. But back to flora and fauna, which is my favorite bit, and the bit I want to talk about, Gary, you bloody pushy bugger. Look, this bit is actually really cool. There's enough description of these creatures and what they do. They look particularly menacing. The xenomorph is definitely a nod to the alien universe. And there are creatures in here that I'm going to lift out to use in other settings. And then we get to an index. I could go through each of the monsters. I don't feel that's necessary. They are
space fleas.
Yeah, it's
are there any dark gods in the bestiary?
There is one at the back. I believe it's the Dtrpg. In the dark places of deep space live truly terrifying things. One of these is a Dtrpg, an ancient horror from beyond the stars. The Dtrpg can create its own warp gate to travel from place to place. Well, that just sucks. You find it in ancient ruins. Ghost planets have left artifacts that speak of these Dtrpgs, and it's 20 feet across and lots of tendrils, so maybe a homage to Japanese anime, as well as the Cthulhu.
Hentai.
Hypnotic stare. Hentai. Look, yeah, it's cool. That's probably the weakest creature in all of this in terms of like getting my creative juices flowing. Because up until that very last page on page 86, I got no impression that this was a Cthulhu. You could run a Cthulhu style game out of this.
Yeah, and it's funny because during the interview, there was someone that had asked a question how it compared to Nemesis, and I was explaining, because neither one of them had heard of Nemesis, and I was explaining that Nemesis was a little bit like Warhammer 40K in the sense that it's sci-fi, and then you get dark gods in there, and creatures from the warp space. And James said something to like, well, in our game in Zombie Squad, we're not scared of calling things by their name. That if it's like Cthulhu, it's, we're not afraid to use the name, and Lovecraft and Mythos creatures and all that. And so I took the PDF and I ran all these keywords through the search function, the find function on my PDF, and came up with 0 hits on these, but I didn't read the book. So that's why I was asking you, are there dark gods in there? Are there mentions of, creatures from beyond another dimension, or so? No. Nothing like that, right?
Not unless I skipped over it because I didn't see it, like those sample characters there. There was no mention. Again, this goes back to that. What is it that these humans are doing in this sector? Who are they fighting against? I don't get an impression of a struggle for day-to-day existence, or an enemy on the doorstep ready to pounce and destroy everyone and everything we know and love. You're just there. The humans are just there. The aliens are just there. And there are some missions to go and fight some bugs or stop a pirate.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they did mention during the interview that that setting sounded like it was mainly a pretext to just go out there and shoot stuff. And from what you're telling me, that's what it is.
Which is cool. So that brings us to our handy dandy index, and then our character sheet, which I'd hate to print it because there's so much color on this character sheet, but in terms of layout, I feel they put a lot of work into this character sheet and maybe not quite as much into the layout of the book. That being said, the layout of the book is quite clean, except for when you miss the sample characters. It's easy to read. It's not cluttered. The artwork is pretty cool for the most part. Again, doesn't really give me a feel for the universe. I get a feel for the player characters themselves. They are soldiers that are fighting for whatever they're told to fight for, and that's where it falls down for me. I had to give this a lot of thought because, one, I hate critiquing other people's work because, this would have taken a lot of work. I would have dearly loved to see the original source material and match it up and see what was missing. I really get the impression that this shouldn't have been a source book on its own. It should have either been a primer, and even then it would need some work, or this should have been just a series, either a plot point or a series of adventures that have this wonderful idea of a zombie squad in it. The impression that I got from at least this book, and I can't speak for the other one, is that someone went, you know what would be cool? A game about prisoners, like the Suicide Squad in space. Let's play a game of that. And to me, it has, as it sits here in front of me, it has no more legs than one shots. There's no campaign here. There's nothing here for me to bite my teeth into in terms of the world or the universe or the struggles that people face day to day, or politics, religion. Cthulhu's there. That's a pretty big thing. Why am I not reading somewhere about where this darkness on the edge of space is coming in and devouring planets and humans are next? This should be in here. So as I was going through and making my final thoughts on this book, I had
questions before, maybe? Can we get to questions first?
Some of them are sort of brought up in my conclusion, but so
Chad
Ward, the idea looks cool, but how is it a Savage World specific setting? The review on Drive-Thru both mentioned that it seems like a somewhat sloppy port from a D20 or PBTA game, and that the writers/developers might not have a strong grasp on the Savage World's rule set. I have to agree wholeheartedly with Chad here. My impression of what I read showed what I believe to be a lack of understanding of the nuances of the Savage Worlds rule set. There are just way too many bonuses in here. I can't imagine people missing, quite frankly. These guys are all elite. These aren't hardened criminals that have one or two specific skills that make them good. These are super soldiers, man. These are the top of the top of the top. Like, I don't know what their normal military is like, but this should be these guys. These guys are amazing. And in terms of the way that the edges, the hindrances, and even the setting rules were laid out, and the arcane background, it didn't have a lot. It didn't give me a feel that the people writing this particular version of Zombie Squad had a big grasp on it, and there was almost a laziness to it where it was like it's in the Superpowers Companion. If you want it, it's in the Superpowers Companion. So, which makes you ask the question, well, then why did I buy this book? So that's and then John Stevens says the description says the game is of a higher power level than standard Savage Worlds. How did they pull that off? Is it too much? A
lot of plus twos.
A lot of plus twos, man. Yeah, they just kept adding. In terms of the things that you can fight, there is nothing really in here that makes me think that you need that much power. In fact, if I look at it, the highest average toughness is about 7 to 10. There's one thing here with a toughness of 16.
And the weapons do 2d8. 2d8 plus 1, so they're not like super powered. There's no 3d6s kind of a thing, or
it's so you get to hit more, but ultimately the equipment that you use comes out of the science fiction companion. So they didn't pull it off. Is essentially they've essentially made characters that can hit everything, and then everything is left up to the Savage Worlds rules. I can see characters having a lot of razors.
Yeah,
and they will obliterate pretty much anything that's in that bestiary. So I don't.
If you have a +6, you can go straight up with a called shot to the head, which is +4 damage, and you still get a +2 to hit the guy with a called shot to the head, and then maybe get a raise and +4 damage. So that's a lot.
So, like, if you
thought says, how much of this could be used for in Fear Agent, Flash Gordon, or Last Parsec? And I would add it in any game, really, any sci-fi game or whatever.
Yeah, I've actually put that in my final thoughts, which is the last bit. Says you could easily read the description of Zombie Squad setting just from the back of the book, and then model it in Nemesis, Interface Zero, Rifts, Last Parsec, Mutant Chronicles, High Space, Nova Praxis, any of those settings that are out there now that certainly give you a greater feel for their world and what's involved with the threats and challenges and just even the universe alone. My thing with this is that the zombie squad notion, or the notion of a group of prisoners that are lifers, that are for death row, and their last chance is to live a bit longer, is to do these insane missions. It's not really a unique concept. We've seen it in a number of pop culture references already. And there is nothing within this book that gives me enough for this to be its own campaign universe. As it stands, I could make a couple of cool one-shots out of it and sort of gloss over the bit of the importance of these missions or why we'd even be doing them. But yeah, I think if you're going for that gritty,
you could use the bestiary, you said, right?
You can use the bestiary. And then this is sort of where I had to back up, because I didn't want to just focus on the negatives. There are some positives in here, and there's certainly information in here that got me thinking about other stuff or how I'd use it in other settings. The bestiary is pretty cool. But yeah, sort of going through my final thoughts, did the creators really understand the Savage World system? I think we pretty much covered that. No. Did they bring anything new to the Savage Worlds GM kit? And that's really what I look for, especially when I'm backing a product, is even if I don't plan to run the setting as it stands, is there enough in here, or is there anything in there that I would then take and add to my Savage Worlds GM kit for it to be on my shelf? Does it offer me something that I will pull it off the shelf and use it in another game? The bestiary, yes. The Wild Die, definitely that spaceship. That's going to be flying around everywhere in my games. I can tell you that heal instantly by injecting yourself, that's not going into any of my games. Yeah, there's no, like, just apart from the bestiary. So then that asks the question, should I buy this title? Me personally, I'd only buy this title if it goes on sale. I wouldn't certainly buy it at its current price. So on drive-through on PDF, it's $9.99 US or $14 Australian. Soft cover, you're looking at $20 US and $30 or just under $30 Australian. Hardcover, $25 US, $35 Australian.
At least it's pretty cheap.
It is, but and yes, it's 80 pages. But my question, after reading this, I didn't get 80 pages worth of information. I got a couple of cool ideas, a 6 or 10 page bestiary, and a whole lot of references to go and check out the science fiction companion. So I would buy it as a PDF. I certainly would have it as in my PDF collection, but to me, it's probably a $5 US buy for me personally, for other people to make their opinion on. I think the biggest thing that holds Zombie Squad back is it promised so much. I mean, when you put in that it covers Firefly, Star Wars, and aliens all wrapped up in the one thing, right? Well, what made those settings fantastic? It was Star Wars wasn't just people smashing each other over the head with lightsabers. It was the world. It was the conflict between the Empire and the Rebellion and all those planets that got caught up in the middle. Firefly is about eking out an existence where you've got this major corporation that pretty much controls everything above you, plus your side of the war got its ass kicked, and you're trying to eke out a living as a trader. And it's when you look at the Firefly universe, it feels lived in. You get an impression of what it is that you're playing in. Zombie Squad doesn't have that. It doesn't have any of that sort of feel. And aside from that, from Aliens the movie, there's even not a lot of feel for any of the other Alien films. There's none of that. There's a corporation behind. There's no corporations mentioned in this entire book. I don't even know how businesses run in this universe. right? It could all be barter and trade for all I know. 3 chickens for some more ammo. I just don't know. So in that sense, I would take this cool idea, I would buy it for $5, and then I would apply what I like to it into things like Nemesis, Interface Zero, Rifts, the Last Parsec, etc. Yeah, that's it. Look, there are things I liked about it. I did back it on the Kickstarter. I wanted desperately to like it a lot more than I do. I would have loved to have been able to do a review where we went, man, this book is awesome. But it's not. It's not awesome. It's okay. It's okay. It has some okay things in it,
but I
can't recommend you buying it at full price. If you really want a decent, if you want a sci-fi setting that you can do this in, the other titles that I've listed, you're far better off putting your money there.
Yeah, Last Parsec, you know what I mean. It's more fully fledged out kind of a thing. You could throw this stuff into that.
Anyway, you may as well use the Last Parsec.
Yeah.
You're just not allowed to use the Debtor or any of the other alien races.
I do like the layout in this book. You know what I mean? It's sharp. The artwork is consistent, which is really nice. You could pull the witch out of this. You could pull some of the gear out of this. As far as the ships go, they're pretty standard. What I thought would be cool would be maybe somebody that, if they would have thrown in some dude that can control drones. Do you know what I mean? That would have been cool. This guy has.
No, there is. That's the fixer.
Oh, is it? Okay. So you could play a fixer guy and be in charge of like a swarm of drones and send them in, and they all have guns and stuff.
Running drones. In terms of the layout, though, I noted that there was a complaint on drive-through about a picture that was in it. And when I went back and downloaded the PDF again, the picture they were mentioning wasn't gone, but I'd actually happened to have printed out my original copy or my original PDF. And so it turns out on page 18, they'd put a Medical Corps logo on there, but they'd blown it up so much that it was pixelated to hell. So all they did was remove that picture from the PDF, but they didn't correct some of the spelling mistakes that I came across. 3 versions I read. So I get the impression that the person that made this, the 2 things that I got the impression of, the person that made this, A, didn't have a real huge grasp of Savage Worlds, or at least not enough experience with it on how to convert things. Well, and actually maybe that may be the problem. They looked at the source material and they kept trying to convert as opposed to understanding how it would work in Savage Worlds, how it should be presented in Savage Worlds. I also get the impression that whoever wrote this didn't have as much background on the original source material. So I get the impression that whoever wrote this isn't the person that wrote the original. And I think Eric may have mentioned that before.
It's 2 different guys. Yeah.
2 different guys. So again, I would have loved to have seen the initial source material. I'm not prepared to pay $30 for the hardcover book and get it shipped. So if anyone has read Zombie Squad Director's Cut, which is a D20 system, and read this as well, please send us some feedback on what you sort of compared between the 2. I'd really, really love to know. I think we've covered it all, Eric. I don't think there's much more that we can go with this book.
Would you give it a rating? How many? A
rating? Well, as we are sitting here in our smoking jackets with our cognac and our pipes, I would give this 2 cultured savages out of 5.
2 out of 5. Oh, it's not too bad.
Yeah, only because I don't feel that it stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are things in here that I can use for other settings and other campaigns that I could be working on. I don't think my other settings or campaigns would be missing anything if I didn't have what was in here. But the concept of the Zombie Squad is a pretty solid one, and I can see it being used effectively in more detailed worlds to give you more of a reason for why zombie squads are even needed. That's the other thing. I have no understanding as to why they need a zombie squad. There's no mention of the human military as it stands, or their police force, or anything like that. So is their entire protection of this sector and entire protection of the human race based on zombie squads, like that must be a metric ton of criminals. Right, so maybe that's not like other places where you go and enlist. You actually go commit a crime first to get a job. That could be how it works in this universe. I just don't know.
Interesting.
Well, thank you, Paris.
No problems. Thank you.
Really appreciate your insight into this. This is one that
The Wild Die Podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group or official Pinnacle licensees. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All music and artwork is used with permission of Pinnacle Entertainment Group. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Wild Die Podcast.